Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Be the Whole You. My name's Gulveg. All right, so we have a full moon in Sagittarius today, June 14th, 2022. And it's a fiery one, folks. There's a lot of T-squares happening. Mercury is going into Gemini at 1 degree. So Mercury has a lot of energy around this. There's also Mars, Chiron, Jupiter are all in Aries. So that might create a little bit of itchiness, so to speak, might create a little bit of antsy kind of energy. And so I thought what this particular tarot reading is because there's a lot of different ways that we could use this energy. Fire, it can cook you a tasty meal or it can burn down your house. So let's take a look and see how best we can use this fiery energy for our best and highest good versus allowing it potentially to get out of hand and create chaos. So let's take a look. And then I'm going to go into a little bit more. There's a few other alignments here that I want to talk about, but let's first see like what the tarot has to say. Okay. All right. So if even if you're joining me in a recording, please just take a moment and let's set the intention of connecting with our divine highest self. What is it that we need to know or do to use this full moon in Sagittarius to our best and highest good? Okay. Okay. Very first card that comes up is we have the Seven of Wands reversed. Now, in reversal, the Seven of Wands indicates like an inner type of conflict. So there is a lot going on astrologically that could cause this. For example, that Mars, Chiron, Jupiter, and Aries, that all of those guys like being in the same sign, and Aries being a fire sign and being about the self first and foremost. Chiron is the wounded healer. Jupiter expands anything it touches. And Mars is all about action. It's about passion. It's also about courage as well. So Mars isn't it's usually associated with war, but that doesn't even that's not really all of what it's about. It also can spur us to action. And Chiron being the wounded healer, there might be, especially with Neptune, because Neptune is squaring the moon at 25 degrees in Pisces, as well as 23 degrees in Sagittarius. So Neptune is about dreams. It's about possibilities. But it also is about illusion. So our intuition might be heightened, but with all of the antsy energy and with Neptune being what it is that we hoped would happen, what we hoped would occur, there might be some inner struggle where perhaps there have been some disappointments. And there might be a tendency to think about the worst case scenario versus using our intuition and our imagination to create the good things. So that's really the thing about this moon, is that it could go either way. It really depends on how we use it. Just like I said, fire, it can cook you a tasty meal or it can burn down your house. And with Neptune being in the mix, what I would recommend is write down any kind of intuitive hits that you're getting, write down your dreams, but don't make any decisions right now. Don't make any decisions for a few days. Like if there's any like big things that you need to decide on, just sit on it for like a few days, because the pieces of intuition that are coming through, what they actually mean will become more clear if we just give them time to simmer. So again, that fire element, right? We're letting it simmer. The other analogy that's coming to mind is like gold when it is being smelted. You have to fire it up in order to burn off the impurities. So this very well could be what's happening with Neptune and all of this fiery energy with Sagittarius and these, major planets being in Aries. That what it's happening is perhaps we might be reminded of some decisions that weren't the best, or when things just didn't pan out the way that we thought they would. Um, and those things are coming up to the surface, but it doesn't mean that the past has to define our future. And that is really what brings us to the next one, which is about Ace of Swords. And it is in reversed. So this is really, again, the tarot cards are giving us more information as to what the Seven of Wands reversed is really about. So that inner conflict, the inner conflict that we might be dealing with is between ourself and how we express or how we interact, how we relate to the world at large and within our relationships. So there's some reanalyzation that's happening here. And swords, is about the mind, it's about the intellect. So Mercury being in Gemini and it having a lot of influence over this full moon, as well as Neptune being about the imagination. So also kind of a different type of mental energy. There is a lot of diving for light that's happening. And what I mean by that, I actually explore in a podcast that I created this week on shadow work. So there's going to be a lot of that that's coming up. And if we resist that, if we resist the time that it might take to pause and reanalyze, to get a different perspective, to meditate, and to get clear, if we resist that process, then we might end up making rash decisions that end up creating consequences that we don't really want. And what is causing this inner conflict is it's no surprise. It's out of control emotions. The King of Cups, when it's reversed, is when he's in his right side aspect. The King of Cups is all about mastering our emotions. But when he's upside down, it's about manipulation. It's about not mastering our emotions and allowing the emotions to kind of run amok. So here we have like fire and water creating steam. Now, this stuff coming up from the surface, because I consider the King of Cups to be like deep water. When it's coming up from the surface, it's coming up to heal. Chiron is meeting up with Aries because Aries is the sign that's all about the sovereign self. So if you felt in the past that perhaps you have made compromises that were not in your best interest for other people, if you have the disease to please, what I call, or if you have made some decisions that out of codependent tendencies, if things like that, those type of things are the things that are going to come up to the surface. And Chiron and Jupiter and Mars and Aries is here to say, you matter. Your desires, your needs are just as important as anyone else's. And the King of Cups is here to remind us that boys, girls, and unicorns, we all have to fill our own cup first before we can help anybody else. So let's not let the intention to help others sabotage our own self-care. So like right now is really important thing for self-care. The other thing that I wanted to talk about here is Uranus, North Node, and Venus are all in Taurus. So Uranus is the planet of change. It's about change. It's about revolution. It shakes things up. North Node is what our souls or ourselves are traveling towards. It's our goals. It's our aspirations. And it also is connected to our soul's mission, like the big reason why we're here, our lessons. And Venus is about beauty. It's about wealth. It's about In some ways, it's about health, and it's very happy in Taurus. Uranus, because it's a planet of change, promises that things will change. So we can use this fiery energy to detox anything that might be in the way of change that we would like to see happen in our lives. And I'm going to pull a couple more cards here. Let's take a look and see how we might, what kind of changes, like how we might use these changes that are being promised by Uranus and Taurus. How might we best use these changes in the most graceful way possible? How can these changes be titrated so that they're not overwhelming? Because that's really kind of the thing about this full moon, is that it could end up being very overwhelming. Oh, wow. Okay. First card that comes up around like how to like create this kind of change, or how to go with the flow, so to speak, so that we're not overwhelmed, is the Fool card. It's like basically just embrace it, embrace the change. The Fool is about ready to embark on a new beginning. He doesn't exactly know all the details. He may not even know exactly what the journey is that he's going on, but he is jumping out into the great unknown to start a whole new journey. So there's a new beginning that is, it's just at the edge of a new beginning. We're right there. And the itchiness is, yeah, but I've tried similar things before and this is what happened. Or I've had disappointments before. And that's the Devil card. And that is, these folks on the Devil card, the shackles are on so loose that they could just slide them off. But the Devil has them believing that they're powerless. It has them believing that perhaps they're not even shackles. There might be such a great illusion for these folks that they may not even know they're enslaved. This definitely is like the shadowest, the darkest part of Neptune. Like, we can use the intuition from Neptune to imagine the possibilities, or we can imagine the worst case scenario. And that brings us to, what is it that lies ahead? If we just jump into the unknown and embrace the adventurous attitude of Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is adventurous, it's gregarious, it's like, ooh, let's see what's next. It's very, very playful. If we can take a little bit of that and not get sucked into kind of like the morose maladies of the past, then what we'll step into is the Six of Wands. And the Six of Wands is about leadership. This is definitely about the sovereign self. And it's also about validation. It isn't just about the sovereign self. It's also about the recognition. And it's also a leadership card. So it's about leading other people. But this leader isn't someone who is separate from the pack. He's someone who leads by example. And they can lead by example because they've taken the time to go through the dark night of the soul. And I know a lot of us have been this. And like, it seems like for the last 2 years, a lot of the astrology readings and the tarot readings that are out there, not just mine, but in general, it is kind of a mixed bag, because that is the energy that we're playing in right now. It is total duality. And we have a choice. We have many choices. But rest assured, if we take the time to dive for light, we will come up with treasures. So if you have found this helpful, then do take a time to take a look at the podcast that I have put out this week on diving for light, on reclaiming your light through shadow work. I do create a podcast every week on how to break free of the matrix, one episode at a time. So take a look, and if you find that helpful, and where I explain what shadow work is, and I also give 3 questions that can help us reclaim our light and help us understand the shadows and why they're there and how to heal them. So thank you all so much for joining me here. I look forward to meeting you back here in a couple weeks where we will take a look at the new moon. Take care.